What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripes show. It's been about a week since we last talked. Last time you heard me and Scott's voice, we were sitting outside the old Yankee Stadium after the Yankees lost the World Series in Game 5. That was very early Thursday morning last week, sometime around 12:30 in the morning. So it's been a little over 7 days since the World Series ended for us, Scott. How you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling taking some time to digest all the things that happened. You know, we were, I think I know our predictions were Yankees in 5. Really, part of that was I had some weird tea leaf things happening, and I think I just read the tea leaf a little wrong, maybe. You know,
The color was wrong.
Partially it was correct. We did see someone win the World Series. It just wasn't the Yankees.
Yeah.
But some of it was also wishful thinking in that knowing we had Game 5 tickets, that would be the clinching game.
Let's be clear.
That
was the only reason for me.
I was trying to will it selfishly to be able to see that. And instead, what we did see was historic debacle of this team. And really, if you're a sadist and watch this team all year long, it's really just like a beautiful ending. It's like a poetic ending to the season.
Poetic.
And in what, well, it depends on which way you look at it. You think probably beautiful. Some people think not so beautiful, but I think you're like, you know, that scene in Fight Club at the end where they're at the apartments and they're looking out over the city and it's just like all going down and they're like rejoicing. That's you a little bit. That's like a little bit of you. And I hear it.
No.
Like they deserved it. I said that on that show. Like they absolutely deserved it. And the way that it went down was fitting. But it was extra excruciating in the way that it went down, considering it happened in just like a real nice fell swoop. Right after Fat Joe gets on the screen in the stadium, which I forgot about.
You're buying the Fat Joe curse?
I'm buying it because he was like, you know, what we don't talk politics on the show, but there was something that happened the other day. Fat Joe was very, very, very much on the forefront of speaking to people in the last week of that too. So yeah, there's something there. I wouldn't go near him right now. I can tell you that much. I'm not going within 100 yards of Fat Joe right now. I don't want to get hit by a bus.
Fat Joe and the dude who grabbed Mookie Betts' glove, those tickets are banned for 2025.
Yeah. So, come to peace with it, I think, in the sense that it was just unbelievable and should have never happened. But also we're going to talk about today, just listening to the Dodgers talk, they were even doing it right after on the field. Immediately talking about the piss poor play that the Yankees have put on tape all year long and how they were well aware of it, well aware of the ability or inability of the Yankees to play fundamental baseball on the base path specifically and the defensive side of things. And they were right.
Yeah. All right. So we got a couple of things to talk about at the top of the episode. First, a little show update. As you know, if you've been listening to this pod for any period of time, we don't skip weeks. We don't take days off. Every single week for the past 10 plus years, since March of 2015, okay? 10 plus years, 10 baseball seasons, and a couple months here.
3 kids, 1 marriage, 1 continuing marriage. One wedding. One wedding.
Yep.
Lots of life events, multiple jobs.
Yep.
Never missed a week.
Vacations. We have not missed a week, and oftentimes there were multiple episodes per week. This offseason, we're going to approach it a little bit differently. We are going to not commit to an episode every single week. We're going to talk about big news as it happens. So when Juan Soto signs either with the Yankees or somewhere else, Scott and I will be recording and reacting to it. If the Yankees sign some guys, make some trades, whatever it is, we will be on to record. It just might not be weekly. We might record twice in 1 week if 2 things happen. But there's not going to be an episode every single week for the offseason. I feel oftentimes in the offseason, especially when free agency was painfully slow in Major League Baseball, it was just recycling news and rumors from the previous week. And hey, there's plenty of radio stations out there and plenty of shows that do that and do that successfully. And so if that's what you want to hear, you can go find one of those. For Scott and I at this point in our lives, for all those life events, for those children that are taking up a lot of time in those jobs. It's just it's not going to be something we're going to commit to this offseason. And we appreciate everyone who has listened to 10 or almost 1,000 of our episodes. We would not,
or some of us will say over 1,000, but yeah, keep going.
whatever it is, we would clearly not still be doing this pod going on past year 10 if it were not for all of you guys. So we appreciate for the episodes you're going to listen to this off season, and hopefully whenever we post a new pod and it's up on the feed or it's up on YouTube, you're going to be tuning in and we're going to be talking to you guys. But just wanted to be forthcoming in that update as we head into the off season.
Yeah, and just to be further transparent with everybody, because that's what we've done forever. We're contemplating like what the show is going to be moving forward as well. Again, it's been 10 years. A lot of things have gone on in our personal lives as well, and just time has been a little harder to come by. So we're figuring that out. We're not sure. We're not sure exactly what it's going to look like next year. Is this the beginning of the end? Maybe not. I don't know. We don't know. It's one of these things.
I'm not going to do a retirement tour.
No, it's one of these things that's exactly that's it's talking to you guys has been like a joy of ours for the last 10 years. And it's very difficult to stop, to be honest. It's just very difficult to stop because it's been part of your life for so long. And I know in the past, we've had this conversation multiple times, not just this season, but multiple other seasons. We've continued, but we're going to figure it out. So we just want to be transparent with you guys. We appreciate everybody who takes their time and out of their day to listen to us and email and send us things on social and all that. So just a big thank you to everybody. And it's not goodbye, but it's we're figuring it out. We're going to figure out what that next step is. I got another cat call here I got to put out, because I think everything that Andrew and I met 2011,
somewhere around there.
And it was because I put a cat call out on Twitter asking if anybody wanted to write. Logan came onto the show probably from Twitter or listening to the show in some capacity, and us making, asking you guys if you wanted to get involved. Every single writer that was on Bronx Pinstripes when we were doing all the editorial came from either the Twitter account, one of our social accounts, and or the podcast. And it's because people wanted to get involved. It's always worked. It's always been it's kind of the backbone of Bronx Pinstripes and how it grew as a platform over the years. So anyway, I got something non-Bronx Pinstripes, but I'm interested and looking for, and I'm having a difficult time finding someone that I am eager to work with. But I'm looking for a full stack developer. So if you are a full stack developer and have interest in a new project, I have a very cool project that I'm going to be starting soon, and I'm looking for someone to work with on it. So if you are interested or know someone that is a full stack developer, I would appreciate you reaching out. Shoot me an email at info@bronxpinstripes.com. And let's have a conversation about it. But wanted to put that out there to anybody who's listening. So appreciate it if you have a Rolodex of anybody too, and if you're passing this along, I'd appreciate that too.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure there's, like you said, everyone who's come through, contributed 1 minute or many hours to Bronx Pinstripes has pretty much come through the podcast and social media and stuff. So I'm sure there's people out there with those skills. So I got home around 2:00 in the morning after the World Series.
You want to know what time? Actually, I got home at.
Yeah, I was gonna say your train was 1:15. You were.
My train got in at 2.
Okay.
But then what happened is, so I went with my sister and my brother-in-law, right? And they drove to the train station. I wasn't thinking about the
Oh, no.
I was not thinking about the aftermath of this. So I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm not going to ask them to stay while we're doing a pod. So they went, and I was like, dude, I'll just walk it. It's not that bad. Well, it's all uphill. They live in a town called Irvington. And if you know where that train station is, it's all uphill. And then you have to go through that town and then go where they live further up a hill. It's never not uphill.
How many minutes is it?
It wasn't that bad. Like it took me about 25 to 30 minutes.
But uphill, you're power
completely
walking uphill.
And I'm talking about like 75 degrees. My calves were burning in the morning.
That's funny.
But it gave me some time to think.
Yeah.
And there was literally nobody out there. I was really banking on like a cop saying, "What the hell are you doing out here?" And then me talking myself into a ride.
He saw your Yankee stuff and was like, "Oh, I get it."
Well, I would have. I I was pretty convinced that I could get myself into the car without being arrested and get a ride to my sister's house if that occurred, but it never even happened. So I was a little disappointed in that.
Well, yeah. So I arrived home. I drove. I arrived home around 2:00 in the morning, and the masochist that I am, I wanted to see the lowlights as they were on TV.
Yeah.
Because it was hard to, obviously we watched everything live, but it's when you're at a baseball game live, we were sitting in section 233, which is left field, just, in the directly left field. Great seats, especially for a World Series game, but it's hard to see exactly what's going on. So I wanted to see what happened. And it was even worse than I could have possibly imagined. First of all, I think the worst play during the pod, I think I said the worst play was Judge's, but I think the worst play is
Cole.
the Cole Rizzo thing.
I agree.
Because that is 100% a mental breakdown.
Yes.
You can, as bad as the Judge error is, and that was as easy a fly ball line drive as you're going to find, the ball's over a center fielder's head can be tricky, but when it's in at you, you run in and you just catch the ball chest high. But you can say that is a bit of a physical lapse that he had. He closed his glove too early, and 99.
That was still a mental lapse also,
but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, he didn't complete the job that he was doing, but he went to the spot, he did the thing, and he just didn't execute. Cole just didn't do it.
Egregious for Judge. Volpe, I think he rushed and panicked a bit, which is why he spiked the ball into the dirt. That should have been an easy out at third base, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
But the Cole Rizzo thing is so bad because here's what I think happened. Cole struck out the previous two batters with bases loaded and nobody out. He had just struck out Ohtani, and he got an easy ground ball to first base off Mookie Betts, and he's coming off that mound thinking, I got out of this inning. Yes. Yep. Not thinking, I have to go cover the bag. So first of all, there's mental breakdown number one. He was not completing the play. He was just thinking, I got out of this inning. And Rizzo, he's had a lot of problems, especially on easy plays this postseason and really this whole year. But think about the easy plays he has botched this postseason. So he's thinking, just get the ball in my glove. Don't try and rush to the bag. Don't try and make this play any harder than it needs to be. I'm just going to field this ball back because he waited on that ball. He didn't charge that ball. Yeah. He waited on that ball. I'm going to flip it to Cole. We're going to get out of this inning. Both players were Rizzo was mentally thinking, don't mess this up. Cole was mentally thinking, yes, I got out of this inning. And neither were thinking about making the play at first base. And that is why you look at Joe Kelly's comments and you're like, they're true. They're 100% true with this team. This team is not fundamentally sound, and it is exactly the reason why I don't feel they're any closer to a championship as we sit here today in 2024 as they were in 2023 after this season, 2022 after this season, 2021, whatever. And that sounds crazy because they were literally in the World Series, which they have not been in 15 years. So by the scoreboard, yes, they were closer to a championship this year than they were in previous years. But all of the problems that have existed under Aaron Boone and on this team for 7 years now are still there and not getting any better. So that is why I look at Joe Kelly's comments and I'm like, yep, you're spot on. You're talking a whole bunch of shit. And boy, are you are ballsy about it and you don't give a shit. And,
he's looking for microphones,
but he's right.
He's not. Yeah, he is right. And it's not even him that's being right. It's him just talking about what the Dodgers thought and the Dodgers scouting and the whole team was looking for. So Joe Kelly's just the asshole who's talking about it. He's just the big mouth who loves this stuff because he does. Was he even pitching?
No,
I don't even remember him. I forgot that he was on the team first of all. And then I'm like, wait a minute.
He was hurt.
Yeah. Okay. That's what. So him spouting off, like saying the whole we thing, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. And then I realized he was injured. But yeah, they were looking for stuff like this. It's called being aggressive. Dave Roberts is like, be aggressive, push the limits. And even something as simple as the Aaron Judge play where he was, I was listening to FAN the next day, like way too much, just because I like to hear what people think. And I know those guys just go, especially the midday guys, go way too like on one side just to have a take. It's kind of the business, but they were talking, I forget who it was talking about the fact that Judge was like feeling good and feeling good about himself because he made that play earlier in the game against the wall.
Yep.
Great play. Hit the home run, obviously, just like no time wasted. And just, feeling himself a little bit, like feeling confident and maybe a little too confident. And like, okay, that's a theory that you're going down and like, you're trying to get into the guy's head in that moment. But like, I think all that's bullshit. Like you can contemplate all the things that you want. Was he thinking about his pregnant wife at the time? Was he looking at someone in the stands? Did he hear something? Did he take his eye off the ball? Like, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. Was he feeling good, bad? None of that matters. He just didn't finish the play. Like at the end of the day, he's a professional athlete, needs to finish the play. And what contributed to that, which shouldn't have, was that there was a runner on first base. There was no play. There was no play. There was nobody moving. There was nobody running. It was a short line drive that no one is going on. So maybe they, there was a little bit of a push. Maybe it was a little too far off the bag where Judge was like, okay, maybe I can make a play at first, throw behind him, get 2 outs, and trying to do too much. And that goes down to the looking at what's in front of you and having, the Dodgers push some buttons and just try to look a little different, look a little aggressive, act like you're going to do something because they might react to it. They might try to do too much, or they may, lose a moment of focus and then not complete a certain play. And
instead of recognizing the situation, we've got a 5-0 lead. Yeah. We just need to count outs. That's all we need to do is tick off outs.
Yeah. That guy at first base, if I'm going to throw behind him, it's an unnecessary play.
Who cares if
unnecessary play?
Who cares if the Dodgers make it 5-1?
If he's going to try to tag up, let him. Who cares? Sure. None of that mattered. That runner did not matter.
No. If it's 5-1 after this inning, who cares?
Yeah. But he, in a moment when he was about to close his glove on that ball, it was an easy play that he will talk about being an easy play. He took his eye off the ball to look to see where the runner was, to see what else could happen. And
for sure,
didn't finish the job.
And that's a play that Judge is going to make 999 out of 1,000 times. It's a 99.999% play for him because he is a sure-handed outfielder. We've talked about the defensive metrics for him in center field, which have not been great, especially the range and all that kind of stuff. But that's not an example of one of those plays. But if you dive deeper into the problems on this team and the problems on the roster, Judge is in center field. That's not his position.
Right.
He should be in right field. You've got Juan Soto in right field, who's a subpar right fielder, and you saw him make mistakes earlier in the World Series, costing the Yankees a run when he played a double into a triple, and then also bobbling a ball off the wall and making a throw into second base where Gleyber Torres nonchalanted it. So that now you're talking, okay, now you move to second base and you've got a second baseman who's lazy and makes easy plays into mistakes throughout the year, throughout his career. Well, you have a second baseman playing third base, and you saw Jazz make an error earlier in this World Series. You've got a black hole at first base where it was a revolving door of Anthony Rizzo, Oswaldo Cabrera, and John Birdie, none of which have been playing well, especially defensively. 2 guys aren't even first basemen, and Anthony Rizzo, I just talked about how he's made so many mistakes on easy plays, and then I think that was a factor in why that there was not a play made on that Mookie Betts ground ball.
To be fair, Birdie and Cabrera held their own at first base.
But they're out of position.
Yes.
My point is, I basically named every position on the diamond where there's a problem. So as much as this team is not fundamentally sound, you can also point to the roster construction and say, this is flawed. Yes, they have talent, and that's the reason they were in the World Series, coupled with the fact that the American League was down, and at a certain point when the teams are down and the talent is there, talent is just going to win out. Doesn't matter how many mistakes you make. You're just going to outwin, you're going to out-talent the Guardians and out-talent the Royals, and that's what happened. And so they're in the World Series. But like Cashman, he's speaking at the GM meetings and he's defending Aaron Boone and talking about how hard the managerial job is. Well, Boone made mistakes. The roster has flaws. The team is not fundamentally sound. For all the things Joe Kelly, all the shit that Joe Kelly's talking, we have seen it every single game. Just let them throw the ball to the infield. They can't make a play. That is... He's talking about their opponent in the World Series. Oh, yeah. They're going to mess up an easy throw to the infield. And they did in the first game of the World Series. Like, it is.
I will say that Joe Kelly has been a Yankees troll for a very long time, going back to his days he was with the Red Sox.
These comments are true, though. These comments are true.
Yeah, and the brawl with our boy Tyler Austin, who, congratulations.
Sure.
he and Ford just won a championship over there in Japan. I believe it was in Japan or South Korea. They're over there somewhere and won a championship. So good for them. But yeah, he's not wrong in the small things. The point that you're making about everybody a lot of people out of position in roster construction and all that too, like, I think especially at the end of the year, that happens to a lot of teams. That a lot of teams are playing guys in different places and different positions. Guys are banged up. Like it happens. Baseball players play baseball. So I'm not as much concerned about and like injuries push a certain way. Like Dominguez was going to be in center field. Like for as far as construction, like there's a lot of things that could have been different.
One or two, not almost all 9 positions.
Yeah, but anyway, whatever. I think it's deeper than that. Like, I don't actually have a problem with the construction of the roster. I think the roster was good enough to win. But when you understand that you have liabilities in the field, you understand that you have issues with fielding the ball, throwing the ball, catching the ball, the basic fundamentals of baseball, you need to reiterate those fundamentals throughout the season and make them an emphasis for how you play baseball, because that talent will always be there. But if you lay off the gas on the little things throughout the season, towards the end of the year, when guys are banged up and out of position and doing things that they don't normally do, all those things are going to rear their ugly heads in most likely big scenarios, especially when you're playing good teams who have fundamental strengths. And that is exactly what happened. And so when Cashman is talking about the fact that Boone did a great job, like there's a gaslighting element here. I don't like the word, but like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to a team or a group of fans that has not seen this entire year and understood why this happened? It has nothing to do with just the microcosm of decisions and things that happened in the playoffs. This was a culmination of being undisciplined and having no accountability for when guys are undisciplined throughout the year and throughout your tenure. And so that's where I take issue with what he says. And it's not like it's new. It's not like any of this surprises me, because this is what they do. This is how they've talked at the end of the year every year. There's no accountability. The only accountability that has happened in the last 15 years was Joe Girardi getting axed when he went way further than he should have with a young team that played out of their shoes. And the irony of that is thick.
Yeah. So, and so you talk about accountability.
That's where it pisses me off.
Cashman was saying for what you just said, like he thought Kelly's comments were overblown. And he think there was a personal attack there that stems back to that brawl when he was involved with the Red Sox, which, yes, I think that's true. I think that's why he is going out on a personal attack on the Yankees, and he's using the platforms that are given to him to do that. But it doesn't change the trueness of his comments. And so when Brian Cashman says, I acknowledge that we played poorly in the World Series, I don't feel that's him holding the team accountable, because he goes on to say, we saw that unfortunately our A game didn't show up when it mattered most. So what he's really saying is, well, we got unlucky for 5 games, and we next year we'll bring our A game and we'll win that series, instead of evaluating the things that went wrong and saying, how do we fix the things that went wrong? How do we change the coaching staff, or how do we change our practice and our preparation so that we are not talent over fundamentals, as Joel Sherman wrote, quoting a scout from the Dodgers. The Dodgers have talent and fundamentals. That's why they're World Series champions. If the Yankees had both, maybe they'd be World Series champions, or maybe the Dodgers would just have beaten them out in a clean series, and then you can tip your cap. But
I mean, dude, just the fact that the Dodgers were talking about this and the fact that they understood all of these things before the game, it sounds like they had a game plan. It sounds like when they were walking in this, they understood who their opponent was. They understood all of the things.
Let the Yankees mess it up.
Yes. And they put themselves in positions for that to happen. And they stayed patient. And they put themselves in position. And they stayed patient. And yeah, so I will say, one of them, was it Joe Kelly who talked about the fact that that Fat Joe came up on the board? Like, they were aware of that too, which is just...
Well, that's funny because...
It's funny.
Derek Jeter on the Fox pregame this postseason, I forget when it was. I'm assuming it was before the World Series. No, it was during the Mets, because they were on the Mets-Dodger series, right? The Fox.
Yeah, it was the NL.
He talked about how in the 2000 World Series, before Game 4, the Baja Men performed before that game, and apparently they sucked. And Jeter, I guess Jerry Seinfeld was sitting in like the front row near Jeter, and he looked like Jeter and Seinfeld made eye contact, and Jeter was basically like, "You guys are fucked. The Baja Men suck. You guys are embarrassed. I'm gonna go hit a home run first pitch. Watch me." And he did, and the Yankees won the series. And that's kind of what happened with Fat Joe, where he sucked the life out of the stadium before Game 3. The stupid fan down the right field line tried to get the life back, but that's just a fan being a jackass. And so here we are, World Series losers.
Yeah.
And the cherry on top was as I was watching the lowlights at 2:00 in the morning, there had been reports already out an hour at that point that Aaron Boone is returning. Not surprising, obviously, but
Who'd they come from?
They came from everyone. I know Martino posted it, but literally every beat reporter wrote
Martino is the new Clappish.
Martino is definitely connected, of course.
He's the new Clappish.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Good place to be for Martino.
It is a good place to be for him.
Did you guys see Dave Roberts was on, I think it's Mookie Betts' podcast, and he said
Mookie Betts has a podcast?
Yeah, Mookie Betts has a podcast for a while.
2 years.
And he said that
on Bleacher Report.
He was, because do you remember when we were at the game and we were like, why is he going to his good bullpen? Like right from they were losing 5-0, we were looking at each other. He was like, I was terrified to go back to LA for Game 6.
Sure.
He said that straight out. He said, I managed that game to win because I was scared to go back to LA for Game 6.
Yes, because there would have been a whole lot of momentum for the Yankees. Judge, like we just said,
like that.
Judge was feeling good. He had a home run. So if you potentially woke up Aaron Judge, the Yankees have momentum going back there. And then in theory, Cole could have gotten out of that game on a reasonable pitch count and not just been available for Game 7, would have started Game 7.
The what ifs are crazy.
So close,
the what ifs
so
are crazy
away.
because of how that game started. And you're like, hey, this is a good thing. Things are happening. Like all of the right things that we needed to happen are happening right now. Yep. And then
the Yankees got in their own way. What did I say before the Cleveland series? I said, I don't think the Guardians can beat the Yankees. I think the Yankees can beat the Yankees. And the Dodgers definitely beat the Yankees in the series and can beat the Yankees. They're that good of a team. But the Dodgers went into it saying, let the Yankees beat the Yankees and we'll be World Series champions.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
All right, we got a lot of other stuff to talk about, but first, with big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price magically goes up. But with Mint Mobile, you're never going to have to worry about that again. Say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plan and hello to Mint Mobile for just $15 per month when you purchase a 3-month plan. And when they say $15, they mean it. What you see is what you get. Plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with all your contacts. All your stuff comes over when you transfer to a Mint Mobile plan. It's an amazing offer I know you're going to love because I have people in my life who have used it and say it is so easy to transfer, so affordable. You have to try it out. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 per month, go to mintmobile.com/Bronx. Once again, mintmobile.com/Bronx to cut your wireless bill to $15 per month at mintmobile.com/Bronx. $45 upfront payment is required, which is equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabyte on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. Go see Mint Mobile for details. All right. Do you want to move into some off-season stuff, some news, or anything else on the World Series?
I don't have anything else on the World Series. That's it.
Can I ask you one final question?
Yeah.
Do you feel that the Yankees made progress, are closer to a championship after this year versus previous years, or do you kind of view it as similar?
I don't view it as similar. I think that Brian Cashman made a. Well, let me hold on. There's two parts of this. I think that Brian Cashman improved the roster. I think Brian Cashman did what he needed to do in the offseason. He should have done more on the pitching side at the trade deadline, but he did get jazzed. Like there were moves that he made. I thought they were good enough. They had enough talent. They could have won it. The year before that, they had a lot more holes. There were old guys getting injured, them saying that they were unlucky, but actually it was just injury guys getting injured. And I thought that, yes, they were closer. That said, I think that the Yankees, under the leadership of Aaron Boone, are not any closer because of that. I think that I know that they need another voice. They need a different voice in there to bring out a different side of this talent, because the way that it's working right now is it's like, I'm going to coddle you guys and hope that you're going to be really happy and stay healthy all year long. And we'll be really good friends. And I'm going to support you no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how egregious the act. And I'm going to hope that it works out at the end. I think they need a different voice, one that does care about the little things, because if this team cared about the little things, that series would have been very different. We would have felt very different about that. And I think that matters a lot. I think sometimes when you see Aaron Boone, especially with the amount of veteran players on here, I think he lays off of that for that reason. And I think that's the wrong approach. And I think there needs to be a tighter clubhouse as far as baseball fundamentals. And I don't think Aaron Boone's going to do that.
No, I agree with you. It would be stupid for me to sit here and say they're not closer to a championship when they made the World Series, and they hadn't made the World Series before. However, for all those fundamental things that you just called out, I completely agree. And another thing is, this will sort of transition into offseason talk. I mean, the roster was better in 2024, but what's it going to look like in 2025? Like you got another monster postseason out of Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah.
And we haven't really talked about him much, but dude showed up every single series, every single game in the postseason. How much longer are you going to be able to even get that in short bursts from him? Because he's getting older, and talking about more roster flaws and roster flaws coupled with coaching making stupid decisions. Like, dude can't run, and he's sent on a ball to hit to left field. Like, third base coach just head up his ass. Like, okay, there's another thing that you can't even coach the team that you have properly. So,
knowing your personnel.
Yeah.
Know it.
Know your limits, know the limits of the personnel first and foremost, and then coach them appropriately. That's not even something this coaching staff is capable of doing.
Another thing that really opened my eyes, and I don't think this isn't Cashman's fault I'm talking about like Carlos Rodon specifically, but when you go out and you make a big splash in the starting pitching market, and you're bringing in a big guy, how much does that actually matter once you get down to it?
You're saying just having big starting pitching, because the Dodgers just won the World Series with a slap.
Yamamoto,
together.
Obviously, that's not true, because Yamamoto pitched his ass off, but that's not what
the
won
names.
the game.
The names are there, like Yamamoto, Walker Buehler, Jack Flaherty. Like, those are names, but they were not this. We're not talking about the Braves' big three in the '90s with Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz all going 7+ innings every night. Like, that is not how they won the World Series. So, is your question, do you even need expensive starting pitching?
That is my question. Yeah, that is my question.
I think.
You know what they should do? They should keep the talent. They should spend money, but bring in some of the guys from Tampa Bay who know how to address all these things, and just do that a little bit.
I still think starting pitching is super important. Look at the Guardians. If the Guardians had halfway decent starting pitching, maybe their bullpen carries them through the postseason. But because they had starters literally going 1 inning, their bullpen could not sustain it.
Okay, but that's like completely.
So you need starting pitching.
So far on the other side of it, though. But here's the point: like, the starting pitching value now, because they're only going 5 to 6 innings, unless it's a real unique scenario. Like, don't get me wrong, there are guys that rise above that and are worth it, and I think Gerrit Cole is one of them. And so there are unicorn guys like that.
He's not worth a 5th year.
Well, whatever. But he's the type of guy that can go deeper into the game. So part of this is philosophy, and part of this is, what these guys are capable of in today's baseball. And I think there's a hard look in the mirror about that. After you've done an entire season, after you've, worked through an entire season, like, this is when they make their money. Is that person capable after 175 to 200 innings of doing what you need them to do in October, if they're healthy?
Well, I think that's
a real fair question, and that's a tough one to answer.
It's tough to answer, and I think I agree with you. Gerrit Cole making his $36 million a year ultimately is worth it. I can say unequivocally, Carlos Rodon making his $27 million a year is not worth it.
No, you could put Carlos Rodon in a basket of 30 pitchers and get the same result.
I would rather
not better.
another Clark Schmidt or Luis Hill making $1.5 million, giving you virtually the same thing, if not better in some circumstances. So from that standpoint, no. But I also think there's a question to be asked for the Yankees. And so Cole opted out of the remaining 4 years and $144 million on his contract. And going into this contract, as soon as he signed it, we said he's going to opt out. The Yankees are going to give him that 5th year, and we're going to move on with our lives.
Yeah.
He opted out, and then the Yankees kind of called his bluff. And I've immediately, and I was texting this to our group with Frank and Neil, I was like, what's the point of having a $36 million, $40 million ace if you're not even going to let that guy go past 88 pitches in the World Series? Like, the whole point of paying Gerrit Cole or some other top flight starting pitcher $40 million a year is he's the guy to go 115 pitches and get one of the World Series.
He's the one who gives you the advantage in a 7-game series.
Right. You don't let Carlos Rodon go 100 pitches because you don't trust Carlos Rodon. He's not making that much. So yes, but if you're going to say, Cole, here's the bag, here's the money, then let him do it. Right? Yeah, and he's capable of doing it. Right. And they didn't let that happen. So I'm like, well, I mean, they're not even going to let him do it. What's the point of paying him? And now obviously he came back and he opted back in or said, okay, I'll take the 4 and 144. But I think it was actually kind of good on the Yankees for calling his bluff, saying, yeah, go test the free agent market. Cause I don't think he wanted to leave. I mean, every chance he gets, he goes on and on about how much he loves being a Yankee. And this was a dream of his. So for him to opt out and then walk in free agency, be like, all right, this guy's just full of shit. I think Scott Boras, the moment he signed this contract, was intending on opting out because he thought the Yankees were just going to bend over and give him that extra year. And the Yankees are saying, you're 34 years old. You were injured half of the year this year. Yeah, go beat $144 million in 4 years on the open market. I don't think you can, and I don't think you want to. And Gerrit Cole's like, yeah, you're right. I'll stay. So
from all
I
reports,
liked how they handled that.
From all reports, I don't think the conversation went exactly like that. I think it's from what it sounds like is that
I'm exaggerating.
I know it was like a positive tone from the reports. There's a positive tone to the conversation, almost like, come on, like we're not going to do it. It is, I will say, if he did opt out, someone would give him that money. I promise you that someone would give him that money. Someone would give him that money in that extra year to go out there. It might even be the Dodgers to do that. And so I think he could have gotten it. So I think that's why I don't think like the risk to what he did by opting out and then just accepting it. Like, I don't think the conversation went that way, because if it did go that way, if I'm Gerrit Cole, I would have been like, F you, I can get this money and I will go out and get this money.
What if other teams are talking the same way trying to answer the same question you just answered, where do we need to pay a starting pitcher who's 34 years old $190 million?
Yeah, I mean, fair, but I think there's always someone who will do it, someone to get them over the cusp, and a guy like Gerrit Cole who has the pedigree to do that, and someone's doctor will say, hey, that's not an injury that we need to worry about. And then you're good. So
all I'm saying is I don't think it was a slam dunk, and I think Gerrit Cole didn't even want to leave. And so
for sure he didn't want to leave. I think that's very clear.
Whether the Yankees end up giving him a 5th year for less than $36 million, time will tell. That very well could happen. They could offer it. Logan said before, maybe he gets a $15 or an $18 million 5th year extension or something like that, because he's going to be 39 years old on that 5th year, on that last year. Like, could he be? We've seen Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer and these other guys get $40 million for their age 40 season because they're still pitching at elite levels. And maybe Gerrit Cole, after he finishes his 9-year contract, is still a top 10 pitcher in the American League, and he can get that. Like, that could very well happen. But at this point, I don't think the Yankees needed to extend themselves, and I don't think Cole wanted to go anywhere. So I liked how it was handled. I liked that the Yankees didn't immediately bend over and give it to him.
Sure. I will say I don't really care about the 5th year and like what they're going to pay him, because everybody gets overpaid at the end there. You're more so paying on your career and track record. Just like you said, that's happened. Like Verlander
but Verlander's getting 1 year, and Scherzer are getting 1 or 2.
But they're getting 1 year based on what they've done. Like, they're not performing to that degree at all.
No, but when Verlander signed with the Mets for, what was it, 2 years, $80 million or whatever, he signed coming off of a Cy Young caliber season. So if Gerrit, and I'm not saying it has worked out because he hasn't pitched to that level and he's had injury problems. But my point is, if Gerrit Cole has a Cy Young caliber season in his age 39 season, someone, maybe the Yankees, maybe someone else, will give him a 2-year, $80 million contract.
Yes.
But you're not going to sign up for $36 million at age 39 when he's only 34.
You're kind of making my point here. Maybe I'm not being very clear. I'm saying that at the end, because look what happened after he signed those deals. Same with Scherzer. They didn't pitch to that level. Like,
no.
So you're risking a significant
Verlander, I think,
cliff
was 42
fall off.
though. Wasn't he 42? Like,
yeah,
at age
you had
40,
another Tommy John also.
At age 40, Verlander was still pitching at elite levels. At age 42,
it's happened time and time
tired.
again where you get that big year, and then it just doesn't happen the way that you expect it to happen. So whether you're giving it to them, my point is whether you're giving it to them when they're 34 or whether you're giving it to them when they're 38, like that year, they're probably going to get overpaid for that last year.
Can you think of another 40-year-old guy that's getting paid a lot of money who just isn't worth it?
I feel like this is, I'm trying to think of who the 40-year-old is.
He throws the ball, in the
Kershaw?
Meadowlands. Throws the ball in the Meadowlands.
Oh, Rogers. Well, let's not go there.
Do you see Kershaw just slugging Bud Heavies with a beer gut after the World Series? Good for that guy.
Yeah, Kershaw's a great example of this. Like he's probably going to just continue to get paid no matter what.
I forgot he was on this team this year. He was on the Dodgers this year.
Yeah, I know. He's
He
got
pitched
golden handcuffs over there.
Yeah, finally got his World Series.
Well, 2020.
Yeah. I mean, just by the way the Dodgers fandom and players reacted, this is their first World Series championship.
I think that they feel good about the one in 2020. That's not it, but it's more of like the justification of that now that we got it. So now they can actually look back at that one and enjoy it.
Say we got
now.
two.
Yeah.
We got two. Instead of if they never won another one in 10 years from now, if they pointed to only 2020, people
got one.
Like, no.
Yeah. But now that they got the second one, it's like, oh, okay, like the other one looks better.
Yeah. So hey, I think when you look at the Cole thing, I'm obviously glad that Cole is coming back. And because I think there's also a point where if you're the Yankees, you got to look yourselves in the mirror and say, why are we paying this guy $36 million? Let him go be the ace. Let him go pitch longer.
That has nothing to do with Gerrit Cole. That has everything to do with Aaron.
It has nothing to do with Gerrit Cole. But I'm saying, like, the Yankees, you have one of the few guys in the league that are worth the $36 million that are the ace, true ace.
Mm-hmm.
Let him go be the ace. Don't
let him cook. Yeah.
Don't handcuff him. Like,
no, there's a classic corporate analogy here of like, you hire someone to be a certain thing and then you micromanage the shit out of them and don't let them do their thing. What's the point in hiring them? Why just go get a monkey and the monkey will do the things that you make them do. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and I thought it's also kind of rich. Like Cole opts out, 48 hours after he's not covering the bag, which is, I still think, the worst play of the World Series. So there's also optics to this whole thing that are just like, dude, you didn't pitch half the year. When you did pitch, you were up and down, and then you didn't cover the bag when we needed it most. Like
that's that emoji where you're like,
shut up and just keep the money you have, and let's go on to next year.
Yeah, like fair. Okay, fair. Hands back. Like, okay.
Other news is the Yankees did not pick up Anthony Rizzo's option, which would have been $17 million for 2025. They're paying him the $6 million buyout. Instead, we all knew this was going to happen with just how much of a cliff he fell off. Rizzo, I just talked about how he had so many problems, especially defensively. I thought he had a decent enough postseason for a guy with 2 broken fingers and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying he was a problem necessarily for the Yankees when he got on the field in the postseason, but definitely not worth the $17 million next year.
No, I think he's close to retirement, to be honest.
Talk about him probably going back to the Cubs to retire a Cub. Maybe he'll play 1 year. Maybe he'll sign him a spring training type deal or whatever it is.
Well, I think he'll get more interest than that, but if he's healthy, but he's going to show that he's healthy for the beginning of the year. Then we'll see what happens throughout the year. But I do think he's getting close to that point. So that certainly not a surprise.
And that's a big hole, and not big hole literally, because like the Yankees haven't had a first baseman for a year and a half, but they need a first baseman.
And no qualifying offer for the guy that plays next to him.
Yeah, because Glaber would have taken it. I think he definitely would have taken it.
Yeah,
it was $21 million, right? Qualifying.
Yes,
for him. Yeah, he would have taken it.
I agree.
He would have taken it and gotten another prove me year. Like hopefully it went better for the beginning of the season. Because frankly, at the end of the year, He played himself into a different position, I think. So like, good for him. Him doing the best for what he's going to get on the open market. And Cashman didn't say that it's not possible for him to come back, but kind of writing is on the wall with the personnel that they have as well. I think there's some different things that can potentially happen with Jazz. He could play second. He could play center. That's also a possibility. That's something that could absolutely happen, depending on what's available, depending on who signs.
Well, it's going to come down to what happens with Soto. Soto's going to have to be the first domino to fall for the Yankees or not fall for the Yankees. We can talk about the Soto sweepstakes now. Mets, Dodgers, all the big teams are looking at Juan Soto and what he's going to get. We've said this all season. There is no excuse for the Yankees to be outbid for Juan Soto. And Steve Cohen might give him literally a blank check. Well, the Yankees should give him a blank check plus $1 because you cannot lose him. But if Soto comes back, you might then say, okay, let's move you to left field, put Judge back in right field because he's an elite right fielder, shore up our defense in right field. Soto, you can play left field, and either go with Dominguez in center, Jazz in center, and have a cohesive plan in the outfield going in, rather than Judge can't be the center fielder next year. Like, he cannot be the center fielder next year.
I got a question for you around Judge. He's 32, going to be 33. I don't know when his birthday is, but he's going to be 33.
He's 32 and a half right now.
32 and a half. So he'll be 33 going into the next season. At what point, because it's going to happen eventually, does he transition to first base?
Not now. I
think just do it.
I still think he's a good outfielder.
Who cares? You need a first baseman. You need a first baseman. And you look at the market for first baseman. It's not that obvious. So you could make a trade.
Alonso, Walker.
Alonso, it's too risky. It's like, if things go bad. I can't look at that buffoon. His face is just
such a goober.
Me. He's such a goober, dude. I can't take him seriously, So no, I don't want that to happen. And frankly, I don't think Mets fans want that to happen at all, because if there's such a risk of him playing well, like, that would sting a lot.
I just think Pete Alonso is basically just like, if Luke Voit was a little bit better.
If who?
If Luke Voit was just a little bit better, that's Pete Alonso. Like,
I don't want that. I want nothing to do with Pete Alonso. I think that Aaron Judge has 1,000% the athleticism and the ability to make that transition. I don't actually think that's a doubt. I think he would do it with no issue. And so why not do it now? Why not save some of that outfield traction on his feet, the ability for him to play on dirt and not, well, actually, I don't know if the Trop, RIP the Trop from that hurricane, right? Like, they're like, you know what, guys, it's too expensive to redo the roof. It's not worth it. It's like, this was the best thing that probably happened to them because they could go somewhere else now.
Tampa has a spring training stadium, right? In Florida. Just play there.
Yeah, it'll fill up. Add some high school bleachers in the back.
I guess middle of July outdoor stadium in Florida might be tough.
Well, they might have one right now.
Yeah.
They could play those. They could play the nice days in the Trop.
No, with the flag. It's a good point.
But I think, the transition, you're going to do it. It's going to happen. So just do it.
Yeah. I guess if they're like, well, our plan was at his age 36 season to do it, just rip that Band-Aid now and do it.
Yes, you need a first baseman. So go get a first baseman, or fill the outfield with. It's just a better way. I don't know. If you believe that he can do it and do it well and be like league average, if not better than that, which I do believe that, like, that guy's athletic as shit. Like, he's got the ability to do a lot of things. Like, he could absolutely do it. I don't think that would be any issue. I really don't.
Yeah, but
I don't think first base is that difficult, to be honest.
But first base defense is important, though. It might not be the most difficult, but it's important, especially when there's going to be potentially a new second baseman, a new third baseman. So it's important. You can't have bad defense at first base. You saw the problems the Yankees had with bad defense.
I'm just saying, if you don't think it can be done, and if you're the Yankees and you disagree with this, then it's not going to be an option when he's 36 and less athletic. So that means it's never an option, right? If that's the case. So then if you believe that, then keep him in the outfield. If that's what you believe. I believe that he's got the ability to do it, and I would rather do it now than try to transition him at 36, because it fits what you need to do, and you can go out there and bolster. Or depending on what you need, whether it's a second baseman or a center fielder, and you have the best available option at that point, like, Jazz can play both of those positions.
What's like the best example of this happening? Do we know, like, of an outfielder moving to first
Juan
base?
Gonzalez, did he do
Bryce
it?
Harper.
Bryce Harper.
There we go. That's the best example.
Yeah.
Because like
Bryce Harper was a catcher though.
Mickey Mantle, Bryce Harper's a freak athlete, but I also
Yeah.
think Aaron Judge is a freak athlete.
Agreed.
Mickey Mantle moved to first base, but he moved to first base when his body was broken at the end of his career.
Yeah.
So that's not what we're talking about here. Like, you want to move someone to first base and have them be a quality defender. And now we're talking about Judge playing 7 more seasons at first base.
Mm-hmm. So So then, let him get into the position. Get more, how much more can you get out of him as a first baseman than you can as an outfielder over the time of the duration of the rest of his contract or the rest of his time with the team? I don't know. I think it's something they should seriously consider. They've always messed around with it and toyed around with it in spring training, and they've done things. I know it's been like just whatever, him probably just getting work and like effing around, but I think now is the time to really look at it. And you have an off season for him to kind of prepare for this. Like I think.
Well, you definitely do it. When you do it heading into the offseason, not heading into spring training, because you got to get him as much work and as much preparation as you possibly can for that.
And then you don't have a problem at first base anymore.
Yep.
As far as like offensively. And now you can go out and get someone that can play either center field or a corner outfield or second base, and you have some flexibility. Jazz does give you that flexibility a little bit.
Yeah, and that assuming you sign Juan Soto, because if you don't sign Juan Soto, you're not moving Judge to the infield because you still need that outfielder. But then you sign Juan Soto, he's either right field or left field. Does he play a better left field?
They did him in right field because he's notoriously a bad defender, and Yankee Stadium left field is so big.
He's a Gold Glove candidate, Logan.
Yeah, that's true.
The dumbest award in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I agree. Like, left field at Yankee Stadium is more difficult than right field, and so I mean, Juan Soto, for as much as I'm saying, give him a blank check, and what's the classic term for talent? Transcendent or generational? As much of a generational talent and hitter as he is, he's not on the defensive side.
No, he's not. He's not. And I think it also depends on what you believe that the minor league. Like, what do you have in the minor leagues? Do you believe in any of it?
Do we believe
is there anything going to be there?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some things that can get worked out. And then you have the Martians. Like, do you believe that those plays? I think that those plays were fluky. I don't think he's a bad defender. I think that you put him somewhere and let him play. And
you're not even talking about being a bad defender. Like, he couldn't. Those were easy pop-ups that he dropped. Like, that has to be fluky, or else he's if that's not fluky, then he's not a Major League Baseball player. So yeah. I have to believe those are fluky.
So they have options in that regard, and it's a matter of how do they see Dominguez as far as like a left fielder, center fielder, and if one is more. It depends on what's available to you as well via trade and or free agency, but they have some options.
All right, so a couple of other things from the GM meetings. Normally the Yankees season ends in early to mid-October, and we've got a couple weeks before the GM meetings. And
Cashman does a press conference, says all the bullshit. They were all like, but he just did it more casually now, standing around.
The Yankees have been linked to Pete Alonso, talking to Scott Boras, as we know. The projection on Alonso's contract from Major League for MLB Trade Rumors is 5 years, $125 million, so $25 million AAV. And there was immediate Twitter buzz that the Yankees kicking the tires on Pete Alonso is a contingency, and that Juan Soto is all but gone, and they're out of the Juan Soto sweepstakes again.
You want to know who I think is a dark horse in the Juan Soto sweepstakes that I think wouldn't surprise me if they came out of nowhere with a huge contract? The Washington Nationals. So they are a very young, talented team. He started there, won the World Series there. They've got one of the richest owners in baseball who has the ability to spend if he wants to.
So there was an article that we talked about midsummer written in The Athletic that there was souring with Soto and the Nationals when he left, and that he was actually sort of that him and ownership, that there was beef, not beef, but like, he didn't like how the Nationals handled him getting traded and how they made the contract offer to him public and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how much I put stock and believe in all that.
Yeah,
that
I think
shit,
money.
but-
I think money's going to talk. I think he's going to go to the highest bidder, and hopefully the Yankees are at least matching the highest bidder, and he wants to come back to the Yankees. If Juan Soto, if it's reported and legitimate reports that Juan Soto goes to another team because he wanted to go to another team, at a certain point, like you can't do anything about that.
Well, I still believe the scenario that I laid out a while back is that, and I still think this is going to happen. I think that there's going to be multiple teams that are going to give him whatever he wants, whatever that contract is. It's going to be high as shit. It's going to be stupid. So he's going to get the money in multiple areas. I think it is going to come down to where he wants to be. Like at the end of the day, if he wants to be a Yankee, I think he'll be a Yankee because I think they will give him the contract. If he wants to be a National, he'll be a National because they'll give him the contract. If he wants to be a Met, they'll give him the contract.
Yep.
So it really transpires. I think the transaction happens when he says, okay, are you going to give me the money that I'm asking for? Cool. Check. Now, do I want to be here?
Yep. And so, but it can't come down to the Yankees not giving him the money he wants. If it comes down to that, I don't know how they're going to possibly explain that. And no matter what contingency free agents they sign and moves they make, you're not going to have satisfied the offseason and satisfied the Yankees.
We can't hear a Yamamoto report that says the Yankees went to this level.
Yeah.
But Yamamoto got 25 million more or whatever it was for the Dodgers. So he went the other one because they had a hard line. There can't be a hard line with Juan Soto. You know where the ballpark is. And then you need to be flexible at the top of that ballpark to get the deal done. Because if he wants to be there, he's going to be there. And again, I think that any team that wants Juan Soto is going to need that flexibility at the top of their limit to say, okay, if you're getting this, like we'll match it or we'll give you the extra year or whatever. They, be creative with the deferred money and all that because that's going to happen now after what the Dodgers did last year. So I don't think that the highest bidder necessarily is going to win because they're the highest bidder and it's going to be like, Seattle. I don't think it's a Robinson Cano situation. I think that he's going to get what he wants in multiple places and then he's just going to pick the place that he wants to be or the one that he believes gives him the best career. And that's the Yankees.
It's tough to tell though. Like Juan Soto seemed happy. The Yankees went to the World Series. This was a winning season for the Yankees. He had a great statistical season. Everything seemed great.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know how? We don't know true. Like we don't have a lot of insights to him. Like there's not a lot of. He doesn't really have. There's not a lot of insights into his thought process and anything like that.
Yeah, no, he keeps it pretty business.
Yeah.
From all reports though, hearing about what the clubhouse dynamic was, like the way that it sounds like everything was gravy inside.
It does.
There was a good thing happening inside there. I mean, come on, man. Aaron Boone's like, he's the fun dad. He's going to make sure that the basement is live. Like anybody who wants to drink underage, come to my basement. You know what I'm saying? Like he's that guy.
Giancarlo's comments about Juan Soto?
Yeah. And the tone and the way that he said them makes me feel like there was a really good relationship there.
I feel like we've always given Stanton the respect for his mentality and how he's handled the media and handled his struggles. Like the problem with Giancarlo Stanton has always been the injuries and that he's just too much of an injured player to ever be relied on consistently. But I hope for Stanton's sake and Yankees fans' sake, like this postseason sort of wash some of that stuff away because he's still going to be injured. He's still going to have injury problems. He's not going to be able to run the bases next year. We know this. But like the dude had a postseason. And a lot of times that can erase a lot. And I know the Yankees didn't win the World Series. And so many a big home runs have been washed out of memory. Alfonso Soriano against the Diamondbacks, DJ LeMahieu against the Astros. Like these home runs just poof into the ether because the Yankees didn't end up winning the World Series. But this dude had a postseason.
I think actually a lot of that went away to when we saw how he started out the season too. I think that we're like, okay, this guy made those adjustments that he needed to because the year before was not what we signed up for. He came out of the gate, was hitting the high fastball, was doing all the things that he hadn't been able to do before. And yeah, he couldn't run in the way, but that's almost just one of those things where like, all right, fine. I'm just going to imagine him with like 60 more pounds of fat, and that's just what he would be anyway. If he was a little bit more out of shape, like that's just what he would be anyway. So
running with one of those like military 90-pound bags on, that's what they train with.
Yeah. And so I think that I don't think that there's a bad narrative at all from the fans with Stanton, even if he wasn't as good in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. Like it certainly helps like the allure of him and makes him even better in everybody's eyes. And also kind of helps him out for a little bit more rope in the regular season. Doesn't matter.
That's what I'm saying, because next season when he will go into his slumps, or he might spend time on the IL. The narrative is going to be, that's okay, just get him healthy for October.
Yeah.
And
he's an assassin.
If you try and analyze, like, why does Judge struggle so much in the postseason? Well, he's facing a lot of hard-throwing, right-handed pitching, a lot of different pitchers with relievers coming in and matchups and everything, so his strikeout rate is so high. In theory, all that should be true about Giancarlo Stanton as well. But he hits in the postseason. So while, yes, of course, there's physical things and matchup things that are included here, like, I do believe there is a mental aspect to performing or not performing in the playoffs and pressure situations. And it's something Judge has not been able to get over.
They're 100%. And this is where the nerds, can't hang.
The nerds completely melt into a puddle like the Yankees did in the 5th inning in Game 5 as soon as you have to try and evaluate why Aaron Judge is not hitting in the postseason, that it might be pressure is getting to him.
Hold on, let me hold on. Spreadsheet. There's a spreadsheet here for this somewhere. There's someone in history or something. Some comp for this that will tell me the real reason. No, sometimes it is what it is. And the playoffs are different.
And pressure can get to you
wired differently in the playoffs. You're not the same player. Or are you? Because sometimes, and a lot of times, and we talk about Derek Jeter as the shining example of this, same dude regular season, same dude postseason. Guys wired in a different way. Nothing matters. I actually think Volpe is a little bit in that regard.
He had a good postseason offensively, but that play that was a rushed play. He panicked and tried to throw it too fast. Like, that's a play Derek Jeter left-handed makes. So
he's got to make that play.
Pressure doesn't just show up in the batter's box. Pressure shows up in the field, mentally on the bases. Pressure can get you in a number of different ways.
I understand that. And then
we're
saying that Gerrit Cole also succumbed to said pressure.
Yes, he did. I think that was I think what the situation with Cole is, he was sort of like, yes, I got out of the inning. We're okay.
Fuck.
And literally forgot to do something. He forgot PFP. Like
when's the last time he did PFP? Spring training. Promise you.
So not only did I watch the lowlights, I watched the post-game press conferences too. And Boone's talking about how he said, I think from a PFP standpoint, we're pretty damn good. Like, how do you say that with a straight face after the one play in the World Series you didn't execute? Like, it's just mind-boggling to me how this man says these things with a straight face. Like, you can't even say we didn't execute there. Like, he can't even say that.
Yeah. I know. It's painful. And that's why they need a different voice. But
I think that's as important as
I think it's the most important thing. I really think it's the most important thing.
It's tough when Juan Soto's out there.
You need someone to get these guys thinking in a different way. It has to happen.
Would you rather have a new manager and coaching staff or the same manager and coaching staff, but Juan Soto's back for his 15-year contract?
I hate that question.
I know. And I know it's not one or the other, but you're like, it's the most important thing. And while I agree, because fundamentals and dumb baseball is the reason the Yankees ultimately did not win the World Series, but at the same time, they wouldn't have been in the World Series and would have had the best record in the American League if it were not for Juan Soto. So,
yeah,
not saying he was the only reason, but like, he was obviously a huge factor.
Yeah, I'm not even answering that question because I don't want to. But
boo.
I can't look at Boone.
I know, man. I can't.
Okay, fine. No, I want Juan Soto because I'm gonna have to look at Boone anyway. Like, there's Boone's that answer doesn't have another. There's only one side to that answer because the Yankees are a bunch of soft. They don't care about accountability and getting themselves over the edge. They don't do it. So the only answer to that question is Juan Soto.
Well, Brian Cashman says, we're lucky to have him. He's done a great job. It's a very hard job to do and gets harder in the postseason because whatever you do either works or it doesn't, and there's no gray area.
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yes. It either works or it doesn't. And when it doesn't work, criticism is in order. Which is why
especially when you're in win or go home series.
Which is why when he goes on to say, I support Aaron Boone with every decision he made, every step of the way. He managed the postseason for us, was exceptional. Clearly, the Nestor situation didn't work on that particular day for us, but that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, not even addressing the fact that you gave Gerrit Cole all that money for what?
Or how about just addressing the fact that like the coaching staff sucks and does dumb things, like send a man who can't run when he's going to be out by 100 feet and make dumb pitching decisions and bring in a guy to face Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, who has a bum elbow and is going to need surgery. Like, it's just the fact that they can't even evaluate that and criticize that and say, we need to change that, says all you need to say about this organization.
At the end of the day, right now, the situation that they're in, though, currently with Cashman and Boone, they're tied. They're 100% linked. So this is, to me, it's not even a Cashman thing. This is Steinbrenner allowing this to happen, because we know that Cashman is tied to Boone at this point. That's his guy. So he's not going to say anything bad, because if he does, he may not be there for the next guy. It would fall on him at that point. But that's where Steinbrenner just is complacent in the way that this relationship is being allowed to transpire in front of us. This is them signing Gerrit Cole, giving him a shitty manager that makes shitty decisions and not getting the value out of Gerrit Cole. But rather than understanding why that's happening and how that's happening, allowing the brain trust to stay in the same way, is complacent. It's not actually looking at the problem of the situation.
Yeah, and when you're the Steinbrenners in the front office and you're evaluating the season, made the World Series, made money hand over fist, probably a bigger attendance than was the previous year, and all this kind of stuff. Like, they're going to look at all of the metrics and all of the numbers and say this was a great season.
And at any point, Hal Steinbrenner can just say, I'm making a change. It doesn't matter what Cashman says. Like, all these things that Cashman say, Hal Steinbrenner can still make the change. He can still do it. He can still make that change and actually hold some accountability and feet to the fire and just like understand that this franchise needs to be better on certain baseball things. And the reason they lost was because of that. That's the reason they lost.
But Cashman could also, even if he wants to keep Boone, they could emphasize those fundamental things more. Like, Aaron Boone is...
You have to have someone implement it.
Yes, I know, but like, hire people to implement it. Even if Aaron Boone's still the manager and you want to be tied to him, hire baseball people underneath Boone to not only hold the players accountable, but make sure Boone is implementing the things.
I don't know how you do that. I don't think that works.
Maybe it doesn't work, but how about try it? How about try it?
I think they tried it. I think they tried it this year. How many managers were in the dugout?
Well, you got Rojas, who can't even make logical sends and holds at third base. So, like, clearly the coaching staff that they hired was not the correct one.
But Rojas, former manager. You have Osmus, former manager, former catcher. Like, you have a brain trust in there of guys who have been at that top of
how
of,
are
of
other
the
teams? How are the Dodgers fundamentally sound? How are they? I mean, Dave Roberts gets criticized all the time for his managerial decisions and pitching decisions and over reliance on analytics.
I don't know.
And stuff.
Maybe because Dave Roberts understands that little things matter because he's lived it and saw it and had it happen to him and understands.
Yeah, but Dave Roberts, Aaron Boone, like Dave Roberts was a major league pinch runner. Aaron Boone was a third baseman. None of these guys are the prototypical lifer catcher, gonna be a manager one day, Joe Girardi, Joe Torre type. These guys are just former players.
They got Bob Guerin over there, former Yankees great in the 90s.
They got, what's his name? Mark Pryor. They got Mark
Pryor, who knows how to do it, just couldn't do it.
I've never felt older than watching Mark Pryor trot out of that dugout with a full-on gray beard. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah. That guy knows how to do it. Just couldn't
stay healthy.
Couldn't stay healthy. Little inverted V for him. Blows that elbow up.
Well, I don't know if I got angrier or less angry over the
I'm
last
not angry
week.
anymore. I'm not angry anymore. It's done. Like, the anger is completely gone. I don't usually get angry. I'm disappointed. All right. And you know what?
The father in you is saying you're disappointed. Yeah, that's the thing that's most frustrating. Like, it's not surprising the way they lost for all the reasons you said. It's that it's not going to change next year. That's just super depressing.
You think that Soto gives a rat's ass who's managing that team? You think it's Boone, but he cares about Boone? No, he does not. He does not. Like, none of that matters.
You would
In fact,
also
ask him who he wants
maybe-
to manage the team. Ask him who he wants to manage the team.
You would also. So the one thing about the Joe Kelly comments, like, we don't think that the Yankees coaching staff and the front office is going to take those to heart. They're just already sort of dismissing them. But like, as a Yankees player, shouldn't you look at those comments and be embarrassed and say, okay, we need some accountability amongst ourselves to
Yes.
not suck on the field in little things. So who cares about Aaron Boone and all these other managers and former managers we have? Hey guys, as a group, let's not be freaking embarrassed again by making dumb mistakes on the baseball field.
And also what it does is it shows you how lacking your organization is in the details by emphasizing the fact that the Dodgers saw all this, knew about this, and exploited it at the highest, at the largest stage, at the biggest moments of the year. And not only did they exploit it, but they just waited and just knew it would happen because they were that bad.
It.
Yeah.
Rubbed
And
your
now they're
face
rubbing
in
their
it.
face in it and talking about it and showing scouting reports and talking about it. It just, all of the things that they thought were going to happen transpired because of the way that this team handled themselves throughout the year. Where does that lead to? Does that lead to the players? Yes, the players should execute better. But God damn it, it goes down to the manager and the way and the tone and the way that the message is being sent to these guys about the fundamentals of baseball. It has to start there. And if you're not going to make a change there, nothing else matters because everybody's like, you know what? Boone's telling us all this stuff. Boone didn't emphasize this stuff. If I'm not doing it, like,
I know.
does it really matter?
Well, yeah, I guess that's the theory of like, well, if your boss is happy with your performance, then good, you're fine. You're doing
It's
your
just
job.
not a point of emphasis. That's it.
I know.
Like, it's not a point of emphasis.
But my point, don't you agree the players should be embarrassed
Hell yeah,
by
they should be
these
embarrassed.
statements and take these personally? And like, yes, the coaches need to emphasize it, but you could also take it upon yourself to get better at this stuff.
Of course. I think all of the players probably think that as well.
Like,
But
if
when
you're
in the-
Aaron
in the
Judge,
course of an entire
you're the-
season,
you're the captain of the Yankees, Aaron Judge, after the shitty postseason you just had, and then you make that error, and then you read these Joe Kelly comments.
you gotta be hot.
You should be on fire,
Yes.
embarrassed. I need to correct all of that stuff
Yes.
going into next year.
Yes. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I just think having someone on your side who's going to drill that in next to you is a needed thing. And Aaron Boone's not that guy.
Well, part of the reason why people always talk about Derek Jeter being the perfect captain, and they had players in that clubhouse, whether it was Jorge Posada, David Cone, Paul O'Neill, holding each other accountable for the little things. Derek Jeter held himself and his teammates accountable for the little things. And Joe Torre was a player's manager. Joe Torre is a player's manager.
Yeah.
That's why he...
Different type of players manager.
Different type of players manager, but a players manager. Clubhouse guy, like, make sure the clubhouse is together and pushing in one direction. But then you had the players and the captain on the field not only pushing the little things, but executing the little things. Derek Jeter's not going to fuck up a throw to third base, so I can't fuck up a throw to third base.
The difference, though, but when you're looking at Joe Torre and you're talking about him as a player's manager, Joe Torre was a player's manager in the sense that he knew his players, put his players in the best position to succeed, and allowed them to police themselves too. But it worked. There was a kangaroo court. There was an accountability that was set by the clubhouse, and whether he was the guy speaking to that, they all knew that that's what the standard was. They all knew that that's what the standard was, and that they had to be held to a certain standard, and that was what was expected. Like, he wasn't the guy. Derek Jeter, the captain of the New York Yankees, called him Mr. Torre. Okay, like, there's a respect factor there that is different.
You had so many leaders on that team, though. That was my point. Like, you had...
Yes, because they did it themselves, but Torre put them in a position to do it themselves.
Yeah,
This is not the same situation.
But then on the flip side, you look at the next manager in Joe Girardi. I mean, that 09 team obviously had so many leaders, a lot of carryovers from the 90s years, but then you brought in guys like CeCe Sabathia and Mark Teixeira, who were leaders in their own right. But the reason that Joe Girardi was able to get more out of lackluster teams in the mid-2010s was because he was
Baseball
probably to his own detriment at the end, obsessed with the little things. You can't mess up the little things. You got to do the little things right. If we can't do the little things right, the big things don't matter.
Yeah.
And obviously that was what ended up getting him one of the reasons why he got fired. But yeah, you got to have the right. You got to have the right manager player mix, and I don't think that the Yankees have the right manager player mix right now.
And I think actually a lot of that, now that you say this, and I know we've been just like talking about this, it's fun. I don't want to get off the mic about this one. I think when you look at the Yankees and the way that they made that decision with Girardi and understand the type of manager that Girardi is, it's almost like them eating crow to go back to that type of manager. You know what I mean? So there's.
So you think this Cashman's dug in on his stance and he can't go back?
Because
there
could be some ego there with that, because that's exactly, who are we asking for? Joe Girardi type.
Well, it's like, how many times have we talked about this? But the absurdity of that the way it all went down is all the reports are not just reports, like basically testimonials from Cashman in that Clappish book. August of that summer, the decision was made. There were things that happened throughout that season. So Cashman had his decision made up in the middle of the summer. He's moving on from Girardi. Then ignored how the team responded to Joe Girardi down the stretch, outperformed their own talent level, and got a couple outs away from the World Series. And ignored that and just said, "Well, I already made the decision." Yeah,
it's a complete about face. All the things that matter in the regular season, none of it matters in the postseason.
And you can say the same thing about Hal Steinbrenner and not wanting to be like his dad
100%.
And overreacting.
At the end of the day, this is all on Hal for him, because he can make a decision at any point. He's the one that can do anything he wants.
I mean, I know it's cliche to say, but the moment the Yankees melted down in the 5th inning of Game 5, everybody is fired under George Steinbrenner.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a problem.
All right.
But even that thought in the back of your mind makes you do things differently.
You could get fired, right?
Yeah.
That you could get fired.
Makes you do things a little differently.
I need to answer.
Makes you go about your business in a way that's possibly a little different.
Yeah. We saw it with players. Gleyber Torres got benched, started to play better.
Yeah.
Oh.
Boone finally did something to actually light a fire under a guy when it could have been done for multiple guys. Chose him as the example, and it worked.
I might lose my job. Yeah, maybe I should concentrate a little bit more. Try a little bit harder. All right, guys. Good talk. Don't know when our next episode's going to be. I expect it maybe another one in November. I don't know. When news happens.
Another one in November? Yeah, I promise you we'll be talking to you in November.
Well, we just said when news happens. What if nothing happens?
Something will happen.
Something will happen. Thank you guys so much for listening again. If you're a full stack developer?
Full stack developer, you need full stack developer, web apps, API management, all of that fun stuff. info@bronxpinstripes.com. Hit me up.
Appreciate all the support, guys, and we'll talk to you again soon.